get started with our webinar. Today's webinar is about cloud computing. So how can cloud computing cut your IT costs by half, provide automatic disaster recovery, and free you to work from anywhere or any device? But before we get to all those details, let's talk about it a little bit, and let's decide and discuss what it is. Somebody that's just joined, welcome. We just got started. Okay, so I'll start by saying this. On October 30th, 2005, one of the world's wealthiest tech billionaires wrote an urgent memo to his top engineers and most trusted management team. You know, he sounded the alarm that a very disruptive wave was about to wash over the IT industry. Obviously, we understand that now he's talking about cloud computing, but meanwhile, during that same time, another company along the banks of the Columbia River, a mysterious company only known as Design LLC, was constructing two massive 34,000 square foot windowless warehouses on top of a fiber optic network codenamed Project 2. Also, the International Herald Tribune said this is a looming like an information age nuclear plant. So who are we talking about? Who are these companies? These companies are Microsoft and Google. These companies saw the future, saw the light, if you will, and saw the power of cloud computing and started investing heavily into it. So what are we talking about? We're talking about cloud computing. So in case you haven't guessed it yet, it's the cloud. So what is the cloud? You know, that's something that we will start with it. So this is what we're going to cover today. What exactly is the cloud? How does it work, and where is your data kept? How secure is the cloud, and what can be done to protect your information from hackers and cyber attack? Is it because you're in the cloud you're protected? What does cloud protection offers, and what are you responsible for? Something that we'll discuss. And how can a cloud infrastructure improve your business and streamline your business process? Something we'll discuss as well. But before we get into all this juicy content, please allow me to briefly introduce myself. My name is Ikram Matabini. That's me. I'm the CEO here at MVP Network Consulting. I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and over 20 years of IT experience. MVP has over 1,200 clients in the Western New York area. We focus on healthcare quite a bit. So I'm a HIPAA consultant and auditor. I'm also certified IT security consultant and have multiple certifications in different IT solutions. And that's my email there. Feel free to email me any questions at any time you ever thought of a question and you want somebody to answer it from an IT perspective. I'm available. So let's do this. Let's get started. I will start by trying to explain what is the cloud. So what is the cloud, basically? Well, this is a scene from a movie called Sex Tape with Cameron Diaz and Jason Bateman. I'm not sure what his last name is. It may not be Bateman. I'm not a big movie guy. However, let me show you this little clip that this is how I feel everybody thinks about the cloud.
How do you forget to rate your sex tape? Okay, it kept slipping my mind, and then the next thing I knew, it went up. It went up to the cloud.
And you can't get it down from the cloud?
Nobody understands the cloud. It's a mystery. Look, all that's happened here is there's been a very minor thinking mishap.
This is not minor.
You know what, Annie? I'm on there too.
Nobody cares about you. Nobody wants to watch you having sex. You said it yourself. Nobody cares about the guy. It's the woman that has to live with it forever. How do you forget to rate?
Okay, so I put that in. I thought it was funny. The cloud is an unknown. Nobody understands the cloud, as he said. Well, we're going to try to shed some light here. So what if I told you that the cloud is just someone else's computer? The cloud doesn't really exist. The cloud is a great marketing name for it. But basically it's somebody else's computer that you're using, somebody else's processing power that you're using. So having said that, so what is cloud computing and why you should care? So cloud computing is somebody else's computers and servers that are in an environment that's usually better than the one you could do internally, with power generator backup, with correct cooling, with the right redundancies, and backup and disaster recovery is put in place with some security depending on your cloud provider and who you're going to work with. But I wanted to say that the web and cloud computing is to storing and processing your data to what the electric grid and the electric company is to plug it into your coffee maker. So a more convenient, more reliable, and less expensive way to access computing power and resources you need to power the tools you use. To explain that a little further, I'll talk about it from a power perspective. So once upon a time, company, largely factories, were required to produce their own power to operate a number of tools and machines that they use to produce their wares or whatever they're producing or manufacturing. And in 1851, in a field besides an ironworks in upstate New York, believe it or not, Henry Burden built the largest and most powerful industrial water wheel in the world. A top speed of 600-foot, 250-ton behemoth could produce 500 horsepower that generate enough electricity to power the tools in his factory through an intricate system of gears, belts, and pulleys. So he built this huge mammoth wheel called the Burden's wheel that produced power for his entire factory. This invention made Burden a very powerful and wealthy man. But if you just fast forward 50 years, so by the early years of the 20th century, 50 years later, this once world-class cutting-edge technology was abandoned, rusting in a field of overgrown grass. The invention of electricity as a utility is a game changer at this point. So think of the cloud as an invention as utility for computing power, not just electric power. So companies no longer had to produce their own power. It very quickly became a competitive necessity to tap into the cheaper electric grid than to produce it on your own. So if you buy all the hardware on your own, all the servers on your own, it's a little more money and not as flexible as it is if you put it in an environment that's built to produce that type of computing power. So the same technology revolution is happening today with cloud computing. Basically, what we're saying here is the application users spend the majority of their time is now enabled through a web browser. You're able to use most of your applications through a web browser. Internet connectivity is exploding. It's becoming cheaper, easier to get internet from anywhere in the area that we're in. And Wi-Fi connectivity, Wi-Fi on demand. Your phones actually produce 15 meg down and 2 meg up is usually very fast and allows you the capability to use any application from anywhere. Devices are multiplying and getting cheaper. Every one of us probably has 3 to 4 devices. So which one are we going to use to work? Which one are we going to use to access our data? We should be able to use them all. And that's the idea here from a cloud perspective. And anywhere that we are, we don't have to go back to the office to work or log in remotely to the office to work. We should be able to work from anywhere. And practically all new software applications now are rewritten to be a SaaS model or software as a service so that it is cloud enabled. The big tech drivers, like the big companies, Google, Microsoft, and Apple, they're still investing billions to deliver cloud services and applications which will drive quality, innovation, and speed. Something to think about. Amazon, and we all buy stuff from Amazon. Amazon is the largest cloud provider in the world, a $10 billion a year company that only sells cloud computing. Everybody sees the power of it, but the cloud is a little different. We're going to get into the benefits and the cons of the cloud. So in fact, you're already probably using the cloud. If you just do a Google search, you're using the cloud. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, they're all cloud-based applications. Constant Contact, email broadcasting services, Gmail, Hotmail, Outlook.com, Exchange, online banking, SurveyMonkey, Zoomerang. Every ATM and credit card machine you use is on the cloud. So you're using the cloud. The question is, how secure is it? How are you using it? And how is it beneficial to you? So think about it. I mean, what is a Google search other than a big free utility, cloud-based utility that you're using? So the cloud, like I said, is somebody else's computer. Your cloud should look like this. Your cloud provider should be able to have a data center that's backed up with power, that has redundancy on connectivity coming into their building. No single point of failure should be in the cloud provider that you have. Multiple generators, multiple AC units, multiple servers backing themselves up, multiple hard drives backing themselves up. This is how it should be. Unfortunately, a lot of the cloud infrastructure that we see kind of look like this. So you just really have to understand where your data is going. The cloud is not all created equal. So not all clouds are the same. Just because you're in the cloud doesn't mean you're protected, doesn't mean you're in the right cloud. It doesn't mean that you have the right security in place. So which cloud is really best for you, because there's different types of clouds as well. This is when we're going to get into the detail of it. So we call our cloud offering MVP CloudWorks. So the cloud that works, if you will. So it's how you want it, where you want it, when you want it. So 3 different types, and I'm going to explain each of them separately. Public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. They all go and do the same thing in different ways. And it depends on your company and your use of technology and how you do it. And that's something we'll explain in detail. So let's talk about public cloud a little bit. If you look at this diagram that I put together, over here, this is your internal network on the top. So internally, you have a laptop, you have a tablet, you have a desktop, maybe a thin client, a printer, or a scanner. If you notice, I didn't put any servers here. I just put a switch internally and a firewall to connect you back to your cloud provider. So if everything's in the cloud, like if you're on our data center, a public cloud is a shared resources. So on that same server you may be housed in, you're also housed with other clients and other cloud users that won't see your data, but you're sharing the same resources, which is okay for you to do. But there's also limitation when it comes to bandwidth requirements. So I put them in here. So if you're going to do some 3D video on the cloud, you need at least 500K per user from a bandwidth perspective. If you're not going to, 150K per user is enough. If you're going to do any CAD work, 600K per user is what is from a bandwidth required. So there is some math that needs to be done. But a public cloud is basically you're in the cloud, and it could be your desktops, your server, your phones, your hosted exchange, your email, your disaster recovery, your network security, but it's in a shared environment. The difference between that and a private cloud is that a private cloud is set up the same way, except it's on your own infrastructure in the cloud. In other words, it's not shared with anybody else. And that sometimes is beneficial when you have to adhere to certain criteria like PCI or HIPAA or what have you. We want to put you on your own hardware hosted in a data center and give you your cloud infrastructure. I'm going to do a demo and log into a cloud infrastructure to show you the different ways to do it. But that's the difference between public and private. I actually put together this sheet that talks about public cloud versus private cloud. So public cloud is publicly shared virtualized resources. The private cloud is privately shared virtualized resources, private to your company only.
Hello? Yes.
Did I hear a question?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no, thank you.
Okay. I was going to say, if you have a question, just let me know at the end, and I'll answer them all. On a public cloud environment, support multiple clients. Private cloud, cluster of dedicated resources for you. So the resources are only for you, not for everybody else. It supports connectivity over the internet, and with private, not only over the internet, but over fiber and private network as well. We can link it directly to your internal network. And with public cloud, I say it's suited for less confidential information. A private cloud suited for secure confidential information and core systems. You know, if you're in healthcare or a financial private cloud is a necessity because of what you have to adhere to. But there is something else called the hybrid cloud. It's the best of both worlds. Basically, if you're hosting, you have a server still internally to your office. So I added a server there in the design that I put in there. And it maybe act as a domain controller or whatever it may be. Or maybe it's an application that's a little older that's required to be internally because it also integrates with other applications. So how are we going to design your network and put which application in the cloud and which one not in the cloud and what works best? That's something that we have to look at separately from one user to the other. In a hybrid cloud, it could be just cloud backup or just your drives, your data shared are only in the cloud or servers only in the cloud. we don't put your desktop in a cloud, in a hybrid cloud. It all depends, and that's the difference between the 3 different cloud offerings. Overall, when should you go to the cloud? Well, I could tell you that now is the time, but think about it this way. It's from web to mobile. That's how things happen, right? So I have an idea. I got to look something up. The first thing I'm going to do is pick up my phone. As a matter of fact, mobile users reach for their phone 150 times a day. Now, we all do that. Whether you believe it or not, we all do it. 23% of the time is going to messaging. 22% is going to voice calls. This is just by KPCB, which is an organization that kind of put that stuff together for us. Social media is about 9% of the time. Camera, now it depends on your age and what have you, but this is an average. So you got to just realize that nowadays people are grabbing their phone first when they do searches. People are looking for you through Google, and they're looking for you through their mobile device, not only their desktop. As a matter of fact, inaugurating a new pope, this is in 2005. If you see the picture in 2005, there's only one little phone. It's a flip phone in the corner here. In 2013, you see the difference. What a difference a few years make. People are more connected. People not need instant gratification. And the cloud allows you to offer that to your not only employees, but to your clients. So cloud benefit here is lower upfront cost for the cloud. You don't have to buy hardware, no maintenance or hardware cost. It's elastic. In other words, all of a sudden you need another desktop. It's just a couple of clicks on the cloud infrastructure to build that desktop for you. You need an additional server, or your server require more resources, like more RAM or more hard drive space or more CPU. It's just a click of a button that then takes resources already available and give them to you. So it's elastic. It's easier to upgrade and maintain a cloud infrastructure. There's no software upgrades because it comes with it, and it's a fixed monthly billing fee. It's an operating expenditures, not a capital expenditures. From an efficiency perspective, it allows you to work from anywhere, increase collaboration between your employees and your clients, and I'll show you what I mean by that when I do the demo. It also is multi-platform accessible. In other words, if you want your Mac in the cloud, your PC in the cloud, Unix in the cloud, multi-platform, you're able to reach it all the same way every time. And it has a standardized platform with short learning curve on how to use it and how to log into it. And from a continuity perspective, because you are in the cloud, make sure that the cloud that you're in, and we offer that, a heightened security, automatic backup, highly available or near always on. In other words, there's multiple servers backing each other up. There's not just one. There's not one single point of failure. It takes more than one issue to happen for you to be down. From that perspective, I'm going to just try to mute somebody here because I heard him in the background. So bear with me. Viewer 15, sorry, you are muted. Oh. Okay. So that's some of the cloud benefits that I wanted to mention. But there's also some disadvantages and risks in the cloud. Number one is control. Confidential data is in the hands of a third party. It's no longer your data. You're relying on a third party to hold it, to maintain it, to back it up. So you really have to trust your cloud provider. You really have to give them your all, if you will, and believe that they're doing the right things by their network and their data center. Backup and restore and business continuity. Not all cloud providers actually provide backup of your data. As a matter of fact, you're responsible for the backup of your data. Microsoft Office 365, they do back up your data, but they're not responsible for the quality of the backup. So we always recommend having a tertiary backup above and beyond what your cloud provider is going to offer. Getting access to data when and if needed is something that you need to be aware of, how you're going to be able to work from anywhere. And it depends on the cloud and how it's set up. Reliability is a big piece because obviously if the cloud provider is down, you're also down. So you're reliant on somebody else other than you to provide the right solution for you. So I guess what I'm saying, it all depends on which cloud provider you're going to go with and what kind of data center they have, what kind of, is it certified, SOC certified, is it not? It's important to know where you're going to put your data. And you're also relying on internet connectivity. Obviously, security is a big piece, and most cloud providers do not offer security. It's an above and beyond offering. So security controlled by a third party, and you have identity management overhead. We'll talk about that when we get to the demo. So since we're talking about security, how secure is cloud computing? Well, we'll talk about some issues here. I'll start with Adobe. Now, Adobe is a very large company and really focuses on cloud computing and cloud security. However, they got hacked nonetheless, 38 million records stolen. Next one was Target, 40 million credit card numbers stolen. Home Depot stole 56 million credit card numbers and client detailed, including email, addresses, and phone numbers. Even Apple, which is a very secure environment because they produce their own hardware and software, had a hack. And Apple iCloud China got hacked in October 2014. Best Buy, Equifax, Dropbox, they all are larger organizations that got hacked, and they all are larger organizations that use the cloud extensively. At the end of the day, cloud security, a breach is pretty much inevitable. Whether you're in the cloud or running your own server, you're responsible for your security of your data. So that's what we wanted to make sure that you're aware of. This information came from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Matter of fact, they put together 20 controls that allow people like us, IT providers, to make sure that you adhere to these certain controls that gives you full coverage of cloud and internet security. And that's something that you need to be aware of, so when you go in the cloud, you're able to do it. So cloud security is on you. You're responsible for it, whether it being cloud integration between internal devices that you have and the data center you're going to host your information in, any potential risks that you may have from hackers or internal employees. Encryption, your cloud is not always encrypted. You're responsible for the encryption of it. You're responsible for backup and disaster recovery. You're responsible for accessibility of all the resources and how you're going to get to it, for your bandwidth. So the cloud provider, we build a cloud infrastructure for you. If you go work out of Starbucks, it may work a little slower because you're working on a smaller internet connectivity, right? Or it may work fine depending on what you're doing in the cloud. So in other words, how are you ready for the cloud? Is the cloud right for you, if you will? So I say bring it on. But bring it on and, measure twice and cut once. So how do you know if you're ready for the cloud? What we do is we have a CloudWorks model which enable businesses to get out of the game of computer limbo, buying computers every 3 years, needing to replace them, buying servers and having to replace them every 5, and allow you to really focus on what will differentiate you from your competitors in your industry and remove all the hardware headaches out of your environment. So the cloud is a great thing to do, but it's not a silver bullet. In reality, consumer drive where technology goes. Eventually, businesses catches up. So reality in action, if you don't give consumers an easier way to communicate with you, if you don't give your employees an easier way to work, they'll find it on their own and they'll find it somewhere else. So are you ready for the cloud? We look at it from a different levels. A high-level analysis first. So we first look at how does your company use technology? Is the cloud a solution that you should even look at? What sort of integration is required between your applications? We look at external and internal sources of data. Are you getting data from your website that is now integrated within your internal application? Integration with other systems, other providers, other vendors that may be sending you data, and how is that happening? If you're going to go to the cloud, we got to look at every aspect on how you're running your business to see if it's the right solution for you. Then we do a network topology versus a company topology. In other words, how are your devices laid out versus how you actually operate from a human and company perspective. Remote access requirements. Where are you going to work from? How often are you going to work remotely? Because now everybody would be working remotely if you're in the cloud. Data sharing requirements. Are you sharing data with your employees only? Are you sharing with your clients as well? Are you sharing it with vendors? How are you sharing your data? And how is the cloud going to work for you? So when we look at these questions from a high-level analysis, we look at some very short-term planning sessions, if you will. Number one, current needs of your organization. Do you need that kind of flexibility? Do you need it because your servers are getting older and you're now looking to see if you're going to invest in new servers, or should you look at the cloud as an offering so that you don't spend that money up front? That's something to definitely look into. Do you have a budget for it? Is it a CapEx versus an operational expenditures? So if you're going to buy your own servers, that's a capital expenditures. If you're going to go to the cloud, that's an operational expenditures, which obviously there's some tax benefits there. Growth plan and growth rate of your organization. How fast are you planning on growing? Because the cloud allows you to grow fast. But if you're not planning on growing, that may not be something that you should concern yourself with. And time frame required to implement those solutions. Cloud actually gets implemented a lot quicker than implementing a physical server in your environment. So that's something we look into. Do you have users buy-in? That's a big piece. Are your employees excited about it? They want to see it. They need new things because they're going to work a little differently. And I'm going to do a demo shortly here in the next couple of slides to show you what I mean by work a little differently. But are they ready for it? Do you have buy-in? Disposable solutions. In other words, is that something that we want to set up once and forget it? We don't want to have to keep it back. And remote access or multiple locations, you have multiple locations, how do they work right now and how are they going to work in the future? At the end of the day, we want to make sure that strategy, performance, architecture, and implementation is all done and that you're compliant to whatever regulations you have to comply for. And we also look at long-term planning when it comes to the cloud. Is it a scalable solution? How fast can we scale it up or down? Because what if you decrease in size? Because in the cloud, you pay for what you use only. Long-term strategy of the company is important to know. Future expansion plans, if there is any reutilization of existing equipment, because maybe we can take some of your existing server and create a hybrid cloud environment. So that's the whole planning session. Which cloud is best for you? Does the cloud really work for you? Does it make sense for your organization? This is the stuff that we really have to look for. And the long-term software licensing plans, because the cloud, from a Microsoft perspective, Microsoft has a cloud offering for their Windows operating system and what have you. And a lot of different providers, for instance, if you're using SAP or other pieces of software, they have a cloud offering as well that be able to save you money in the long term. So that's something we have to look into for you. And ease of support and management of your environment, simplicity of solution, long-term planning stuff that we'd look for you, integration of solutions, different ones, and remote access of multiple locations. So this is what you have to look for overall for the cloud. So having said that, I'm going to jump in and do a little demo for you guys. I don't know if you guys are familiar with, this is me and Robert Herjavec. Robert Herjavec is, if he looks familiar, he's from Shark Tank. But he's also a owner of a cloud and security IT company, a very large one, internationally. He's located out of Toronto. That's where he works. I met him there. I went to his facility. We talked about some of the offerings and what have you. And I want to show you how you could use the cloud in the way that we've designed it, which is a little different. See, I'm going to get out of the presentation here real quick, and then I will go to a browser, and I'll start with remote access. So let me log out of here so that I can show you what it looks like in the beginning here. So you go to a web address, and here's our web address that I went to, apps.mvpworks.com. I'm going to enter my password real quick. So think about this. Every application you use, everything that you have, we would remove from your internal environment, put it on a server in our data center, on our cloud, and then what we give you is a portal, a website to go to. You're going to enter your username and password and then sign in. Once you're in, here's the applications that we use, whether it being Skype, QuoteWorks, QuickBooks, Outlook. These are ConnectWise. These are applications we use. Now, I don't have to have them loaded on that machine that I'm using. As a matter of fact, it could be an iPad that I'm using right now. It could be an iPhone. I can reach the same information from any connected device. It could be a thin client internally to your network. You log into this portal, Then you click on one of the icons that you want to use. And I'm going to show you how it functions. Once I click connect, it asks me for the password, securities key. And once I log in, you can see that it's building a session on the terminal server, logging me in, bring me the application that I want. And now on the bottom here, you see the application with two icons next to it. And it looks like I launched the application internally to my machine. In reality, this application is not running on my computer. It's running on the cloud server. Then from here, I can log in. And you could see the application functioning in the cloud as if it's actually located on my machine. It logs me in. Here, I logged into it. Let me bring it this way. This application usually loads all kinds of information at first, so you'll see it all loaded. And I'm able to log in here, and it's asking me for my credentials again. And here's the application running. Now you notice something about this application, that now there is a blue line all the way around it, showing us that it's really not hosted on the server, on the machine that I'm using. It's actually hosted on the cloud environment, and I'm using it. But I can click around the application, and you'll notice that it works just as fast as it would anywhere else, as if it's hosted internally or not. It functions. It gives you all the detail that you want, and I did not have to load it on any machine to get the information out of it. So I'm going to get out of this application, and I X'd out. It took me out. I'm able to use any application that I need through what we called, and this is what I call a published application. It's a published app. Now, not all applications can be published. So some applications require a full desktop that you log into, and what we do in this case is add a desktop icon right here. You click on it, the actual other desktop will come up with a Windows bar, start bar, and a full desktop that you're able to use. So sometimes from a cloud perspective, and depending on your needs, we may actually put your entire desktop in the cloud, and we just give you a thin dumb client, or you use an iPad or whatever, and you're able to log into that environment in the cloud. So the cloud can host just your files, just your backup, just your domain controller, or it could host everything, your desktop, your servers, your applications. It could really be as flexible as we want it to be. So that's one way to look at the cloud. I talked about looking at the cloud where it's hosting your files. So this is a solution, a cloud solution that we offer that's called Cloud Drives, and it's basically a drive in the cloud. So if I come to my files here, I come to Windows Explorer, and I bring it to us, and I show you guys that under this PC, I have these folders, an H drive, a K drive, an M drive, a Q drive. These are the files that I have. If I come to the cloud drives, here they are, the same ones. So if I go to the shared drives here, let me just move it this way, and I'll bring this here, and I go to the shared drive there. I see that departments are here, employee folder is here. It's one-to-one, exactly one-to-one between both sides. One is through a web browser, one is located on my server. That's a cloud-based server. I can make any changes that I want here. It will automatically update the web browser and vice versa. I can reach this web application from any device that I have. As a matter of fact, not only that, if I right-click on any of those, I can download this file, make changes to it. I can see revisions of the file, which is always very handy. Who touched it? When did they touch it? How many changes did they do to it? When did they save it? And what have you. So we know who made what changes to which file. I can also look at the activity on the file. I can rename a file. This is obviously only one person, and I'm the current user, so the current user made the only change on this file. So I'm just showing you how it works. It's a very handy application for a couple of reasons. I can also share an entire directory with somebody. So let's say you have to share files with one of your clients, and the files that you share are larger than what you can email. And even if you can email them, you don't want to email them because you want the communication to be secured. You don't want any of those files to fall in the wrong hands. What you could do from here is go to share. I can share the entire directory with a client. And once I click on share, you see it working. It opens up a shared folder for me, a secure share. I can give it an option of when that share can expire, and it will notify me if they upload anything to that directory or download anything from that directory. And I can come in and share it with specific people. I'll put their email address here. Let's say I put my name, and then I can allow them to modify, can delete, or can only view if I don't click on any of those. And that's a cloud solution just for sharing documentation, just files. So the cloud doesn't only have to be full cloud where everything is in the cloud, including your servers, but it could be where only your data is in the cloud. It could be where only your email is in the cloud. It all depends on how you function as a company, and the only way for us to tell you that is to do a cloud readiness assessment. So just wanted to show you some of the functionality that is available out there for you when it comes to the cloud. I'll go back to cloud drives because there's a couple of other options that I think are very beneficial that you could use. I'll go back to my files here. You could also invite different guests to log in and see some specific files, or you could use this solution as a backup for your main computer. So if I use a computer and I want to back up my files off of it, that solution allows me to do that as well. Not from a server perspective, just from my personal data, because everybody has their own cloud drive. The way that cloud drive works is that this right here is on a server that's located internally to us. Any changes I make on that server automatically sync with cloud drives, and any changes I make on cloud drives will automatically be pushed back internally. So the way that it functions is whoever needs cloud drives pay for that access, but everything that you do internally is also updated in the cloud automatically. And obviously we could do more details for you, more detailed demo, what have you. I can obit any file, like a Word document, in a web editor and make changes to it right there and then and save it if I just want to use the portal to make changes. So I'm opening up a Word document right now as you see it, and Word opens up and I can make changes directly through that portal. Again, cloud is what you make it and how you want to use it. So let's go back to our presentation here. What's our next steps here? So we put together, a three-step process preparing you for the future, preparing you for cloud computing. Number one is a preliminary cloud readiness assessment, something that we need to do to tell you how you could use the cloud and if the cloud really works for you and what benefits you're going to get out of it. It all depends on the age of your equipment. It depends on how you use your data. It depends on how you share your data and some of the questions that we talked about from a high-level, short-term, and long-term planning session. So having said that, step one, preliminary cloud readiness assessment. Step two is once we do the assessment, we're able to create an action plan based on what was discovered. We'll provide you with a plan for what makes sense to move to the cloud and what it will take to perform the move. And then after that, it's an ongoing management and quarterly strategy session. It's not set it and forget it, that's for sure. We talked about security. We'll have to talk about that. We'll talk about disaster recovery and backup. We'll have to talk about that. And how to use it all together. How are you sharing your data? That's something that we can discuss in detail once we have a plan put together. So because of this webinar, the first step is free. So as an attendee of the webinar today, you can receive a no cost or any obligation of the cloud readiness assessment. We'll actually send a tech to your facility that will run a network scan and a security scan. It's a 95-point network and security assessment. We'll review how your business currently uses technology, and we'll provide you with a detailed report and action plan. Well, this is basically how we would do it and create a plan of attack for you. If you're looking at the cloud, it's time to really investigate to see if it works for you. Again, not all clouds are created equal, and most importantly, that you need to be able to use it. So our tagline is technology that works. So every solution that we bring up, it's about a solution that's going to work for you. And that's what's important. That's what's important. So that's basically it. Any questions, please let me know. I did receive a question, so let me answer that. Bear with me 1 second here. Let me go to previous. Okay. So the question is, how much does a cloud cost? Okay, well, that all depends. It depends on how much computing power you're going to need. The way that the cloud is being priced is that it's priced by the amount of cores of a processor that you need, the amount of RAM, of gigabit of you're going to need, of all the servers and desktops that we're going to put in the cloud for you, and how much hard drive space you need. So that's basically how a cloud environment, how we price a cloud environment. It could be just a domain controller, which would cost you, a CPU is about $10 a core, a RAM is about $4 a gig, and then we add them all together and see what your requirements are, and we put that together for you. Let me see if I have any other questions that came up. There's my chat. Bear with me. Oh, here it is. So if you have any questions, please type it in the chat. If not, you could submit those questions to us at any time that you want to. And if you're interested and are ready to take the next step, which is step 1, please feel free to contact Jamie Stewart and schedule your free first step. jstewart@mvpworks.com, or you can call her directory at 716-630-1701. We put some cloud provider information in here, some of our clients in here that will talk about the cloud. Somebody just sent me another question, so bear with me 1 second. It popped on my screen and disappeared. Okay, is cloud data automatically purged after a predetermined length of time? Okay, it's a good question. Actually, cloud data, it depends on your cloud provider and depends on what you signed on your cloud agreement. So from our perspective, minimum retention for us is a year. We don't ever get rid of data more than that has been with us for more than a year, unless you say, hey, listen, I want you to purge every 30 days. But for healthcare organizations, for instance, and people that have to adhere to PCI, the requirements is 7 years. So you're paying for that hard drive space for 7 years and then purging the rest out. So it all depends. It's completely different every single time, and it depends on what your needs are, and all that information comes out from the cloud readiness assessment. So I hope that answered your question. Otis. Any other questions, please let me know. I hope this was beneficial. I tried to keep it short, but gives you enough information in detail on what the cloud is and how beneficial it is. We use a cloud computing here all the time, Office 365. So if you're using mail and you're not on Office 365, I highly recommend you looking at that solution, because it's a strong cloud-enabled solution that allows all your email to go to the cloud and actually reduces the risk and security issues that you may have internally. I hope this was beneficial. Look at the cloud as a solution. We could use any application in the cloud, just about. We'll come in and do an assessment for you and let you know what works and what doesn't work and what you should look into. I hope this was beneficial. We'll have another webinar on security coming soon. Please register. If you have any additional questions, send them my way. I'll be more than glad to answer them. I see somebody typing, actually. So let me see what that is. Oh, that's the question that I just answered. But I hope you guys enjoyed our presentation. And this recording, that we've recorded this webinar, it will be recorded and available for everybody on our webpage, and we'll email it to people if you guys need it. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope everybody has a great day. We're going to end the meeting.